In a world where inflation erodes savings, stock markets crash overnight, and economic uncertainty looms large, most people find themselves trapped in a cycle of financial anxiety. Your hard-earned money seems to evaporate before your eyes, and traditional investment advice often feels like gambling rather than building real wealth. The financial system appears rigged against the average person, leaving many wondering if true financial security is even possible anymore. Have you ever wondered why billionaires rarely keep their money in cash? What if everything you've been taught about building wealth is actually designed to keep you financially dependent? Could it be that the wealthiest families throughout history have been protecting their fortunes using strategies completely different from what financial advisors recommend to the general public? Warren Buffett, one of history's greatest investors, once said, "If you don't find a way to make money while you sleep, you will work until you die." This isn't just clever wisdom, it's the foundation of generational wealth. While Buffett is known for his stock investments, few realize that he's also allocated billions to land and infrastructure, assets that maintain value regardless of economic conditions. In today's video, I'll reveal the 5 assets that have consistently held their value through wars, depressions, inflation, and even the collapse of entire civilizations. These aren't trendy investments that disappear with the next economic shift. They're the foundational wealth-building blocks used by families who have maintained their fortunes for generations. By the end of this video, you'll understand exactly how to structure your investments to weather any economic storm, preserve your purchasing power against inflation, and build true generational wealth. I'll provide specific strategies for getting started with each asset class, regardless of your current financial situation. If you've been frustrated watching your savings lose value or feeling trapped in the paycheck-to-paycheck cycle, stay with me until the end. The final asset I'll discuss is something almost everyone overlooks, yet it has created more billionaires than any other investment strategy. Hit the subscribe button now and leave a comment telling me which asset you're most interested in learning about. Your financial future may depend on information that most financial advisors won't tell you. Number 1. The 5 assets that hold their value the longest. Let me walk you through the 5 assets that have consistently maintained their value throughout history. These aren't just investments. They're wealth preservation vehicles that have stood the test of time. First, real estate remains the cornerstone of generational wealth. Unlike paper assets that can vanish overnight, real estate serves a fundamental human need: shelter. Consider the story of Sarah from Minneapolis who purchased her first duplex in 2008, right after the housing crash, for just $180,000. While her friends were panicking about the market collapse, she recognized the eternal truth about real estate: people always need somewhere to live. Today, that same property is worth over $400,000, and she's collected rent the entire time, literally being paid to own an appreciating asset. Even during economic downturns, well-located properties retain significant value. You don't need to start big. Many Americans begin with a modest rental property, or even house hacking by renting out rooms in their own home. The beauty of real estate is that you can improve its value through renovations and management, giving you control that most investments simply don't offer. Second, land represents possibly the only truly finite asset on Earth. Mark Twain wasn't joking when he said, "Buy land, they're not making it anymore." Unlike buildings that deteriorate, raw land requires virtually no maintenance while steadily appreciating. James, a factory worker from Ohio, inherited 4 acres of farmland from his grandfather in 1990 that was valued at $12,000. He resisted the urge to sell and instead held onto it as suburban development expanded toward his property. By 2020, that same land sold for $1.2 million to a developer building a shopping center. Land on the outskirts of growing cities often increases exponentially in value with zero effort from the owner. Even a small plot purchased strategically can become a significant asset over time. Third, knowledge and education represent the only assets that can never be taken from you. While degrees and certifications matter, I'm talking about practical, marketable skills. Consider Michael, a plumber who invested $8,000 in specialized training for installing and maintaining smart home water systems. Within 2 years, this knowledge increased his annual income by $35,000. Unlike other assets, skills increase in value during economic hardship. When the 2008 recession hit, professionals with specialized knowledge remained employed while many with generic credentials struggled. The digital age has democratized education. Platforms like Coursera, Udemy, and YouTube provide world-class training at minimal cost. What specialized knowledge could you develop that would be valuable regardless of economic conditions? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Fourth, blue-chip stocks in essential companies have demonstrated remarkable staying power. While individual stocks fluctuate, companies providing fundamental services tend to endure and grow. Jessica invested $10,000 in Microsoft back in 2000 when everyone thought the company's best days were behind it. That investment, despite weathering multiple recessions, is worth over $120,000 today. Focus on companies that provide essentials people need regardless of economic conditions: healthcare, utilities, consumer staples, and technology infrastructure. Even during market crashes, these companies tend to recover and continue growing because their products and services remain indispensable to modern life. Finally, precious metals, particularly gold and silver, have maintained value across thousands of years and countless fallen civilizations. When Robert's grandfather gave him 10 gold coins worth about $4,000 in 1995, he considered selling them for a car down payment. Instead, he held them, and today those same coins are worth over $20,000. While gold doesn't generate income like other investments, it serves as wealth insurance during times of currency devaluation and economic uncertainty. Every balanced portfolio should include at least a small allocation to physical precious metals, not as your primary growth vehicle, but as a protection against systemic risk and inflation. These 5 assets form the foundation of wealth preservation strategies used by the truly wealthy. Notice that none of them involve complex financial products or get-rich-quick schemes. They're straightforward, accessible investments that ordinary Americans can incorporate into their financial strategy regardless of starting point. Which of these 5 assets resonates most with your current situation? Let me know in the comments, and in our next segment, I'll show you how to strategically combine these assets to maximize both growth and preservation. Number 2. Diversification strategies for the digital age. Now that we understand the 5 assets that hold their value longest, let's talk about how to combine them strategically in today's digital economy. The most successful wealth builders don't just pick one asset class. They create a personalized ecosystem where each investment complements the others. The foundation of effective diversification starts with understanding your life stage. Take Thomas and Rebecca, a couple in their early 30s from Portland. When they inherited $50,000, they didn't simply split it evenly across different investments. Instead, they allocated based on their 40-year horizon before retirement, 15% to a down payment on a rental property, 60% to growth-oriented stock index funds, 10% to furthering Rebecca's specialized healthcare certification, 10% to physical gold as a hedge, and 5% to Bitcoin as exposure to digital innovation. This allocation matched their long timeline and tolerance for short-term volatility. Your ideal allocation will look dramatically different if you're 25 versus 55. Which is why most generic investment advice fails people. What stage are you in, and how might that affect your asset allocation? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Geographic diversification has become essential in our interconnected world. Jennifer, a high school teacher in Arizona, recognized this principle when she invested in an international real estate investment trust that owned properties across Europe and Asia alongside her American holdings. When the U.S. housing market stalled in 2019, her international properties continued appreciating, balancing her portfolio's performance. You don't need millions to implement this strategy. ETFs and mutual funds allow average investors to own small pieces of global assets for as little as $100. This geographic spreading of assets provides protection against regional economic downturns and currency fluctuations. The power of compounding remains the most underutilized wealth-building tool. Michael, an electrician from Chicago, invested just $400 monthly into a low-cost S&P 500 index fund starting at age 22. Despite modest contributions totaling $192,000 over 40 years, his account grew to over $1.8 million through the miracle of compound growth. The digital age provides tools that make automatic investing easier than ever. Apps like M1 Finance, Betterment, and Vanguard allow you to set up recurring investments that happen without you even thinking about them. The key is consistency over decades, not timing or sophistication. One strategy that's particularly effective in our volatile era is building multiple income streams. Lisa, a marketing manager in Dallas, diversified not just her investments, but her income sources. Beyond her full-time job, she created a small Etsy shop selling digital templates, invested in a rental property with automatic payments, and purchased dividend-paying stocks. When she was unexpectedly laid off in 2020, these alternative income streams covered 70% of her expenses while she searched for a new position. The digital economy offers unprecedented opportunities to create passive and semi-passive income, from affiliate marketing and digital products to fractional real estate investments through platforms like Fundrise or Roofstock. The most successful wealth builders today also integrate traditional assets with carefully selected digital ones. James, a conservative investor in his 40s, maintained his core portfolio in traditional assets while allocating 5% to blockchain technology and digital assets, not as speculation, but as recognition that financial infrastructure is evolving. This small allocation exposed him to innovation without risking his financial foundation. Consider allocating a small percentage of your portfolio to the digital economy, whether through established tech stocks, fintech companies, or even a modest position in cryptocurrency if it aligns with your risk tolerance. What makes these diversification strategies particularly powerful is how they protect you from multiple types of risk: inflation, market crashes, regional downturns, technological disruption, and even personal setbacks like job loss. The right combination creates resilience against whatever the future brings. I'd love to know which diversification strategy resonates most with your situation. Let me know in the comments section below. Remember, the goal isn't to chase the highest returns or follow trends. It's to build an unshakable financial foundation that grows steadily while withstanding economic storms that inevitably come. By thoughtfully combining these time-tested assets with modern strategies, you position yourself for both growth and preservation in our rapidly evolving digital world. Number 3. Building your sustainable asset portfolio, a practical roadmap. Let me share a clear pathway to building assets that last generations, not just theoretical advice, but a practical roadmap you can begin following today, regardless of your starting point. The journey begins with timing, specifically, starting now. Consider the story of two friends, Rachel and Michael, who both worked at the same company in Austin. Rachel began investing $300 monthly at age 25, while Michael waited until 35 to start investing $600 monthly, doubling Rachel's contribution. Despite investing the same total amount by retirement, Rachel accumulated nearly $340,000 more than Michael simply because she started a decade earlier. Time is the ultimate wealth multiplier. Even if you can only invest $50 per month right now, that small beginning has exponentially more value than waiting until you can invest more. What small step could you take this week to begin your asset building journey? The simplest action is opening an account and setting up an automatic transfer, even if it's minimal. Your path should follow a progressive step-by-step strategy. Jessica, a nurse from Minnesota, began with a simple emergency fund, 6 months of expenses in a high-yield savings account. Only after establishing this safety net did she tackle her student loans above 5% interest. Next, she maxed out her employer's 401k match, an immediate 100% return on investment. With these foundations in place, she began allocating $400 monthly to a low-cost index fund, then saved for a down payment on a duplex where she lived in one unit and rented the other. Each step built upon the previous one, creating a cascade of growing assets. This methodical approach works because it prioritizes security before growth and eliminates high-interest debt that undermines wealth building. To weather market volatility, implement dollar-cost averaging. Robert, a teacher in California, received a $24,000 inheritance but felt paralyzed about investing it during market turbulence in 2020. Instead of trying to time the market, he divided the sum into 24 equal parts and invested $1,000 monthly over 2 years. This approach meant he bought more shares when prices were lower and fewer when prices were higher, averaging out his entry points. When the market dropped dramatically in March 2020, his strategy allowed him to acquire significantly more shares at discount prices. You can apply this same principle whether you're investing $100 or $10,000 per month. Consistency beats timing every single time. As your life evolves, rebalance your portfolio to match your changing needs. Jennifer, now 52, began shifting her allocation from 80% growth assets in her 30s to a more balanced 60-40 approach as she neared retirement. This wasn't a reaction to market conditions but a planned transition recognizing her shortened time horizon. Schedule an annual, financial checkup, where you reassess your asset allocation based on your current life stage, not market predictions. Mark your calendar for this review on the same date each year, perhaps your birthday or the start of a new year, to ensure it happens consistently. Perhaps most critically, develop a multi-generational perspective through proper estate planning. The Davidson family from Georgia built substantial wealth through a small manufacturing business and real estate, but nearly lost 40% to taxes and probate costs because the first generation never created a proper succession plan. In contrast, the Williams family maintained wealth through 3 generations by establishing a clear trust structure, educating their children about financial stewardship from a young age, and creating a family constitution outlining values and responsibilities around their assets. You don't need millions to start thinking generationally. Even establishing a simple will and discussing your financial values with family members initiates this process. What most people fail to recognize is that building lasting wealth isn't about sophisticated investment strategies. It's about patience, consistency, and emotional discipline. The majority of Americans who achieve millionaire status don't do it through inheritance or extraordinary income, but through methodical investment in these enduring assets over decades. I'd love to know where you are in this journey. Share in the comments which step you're currently focusing on, or which aspect of this roadmap seems most challenging for you. Remember, every financial empire began with a single decision to start. The perfect moment will never arrive. Begin where you are, with what you have, and let the compounding power of time work in your favor. Your future self will thank you for the foundation you laid today. The 5 cornerstone assets we've discussed, real estate, land, knowledge, blue-chip stocks, and precious metals, have something extraordinary in common. They've maintained value through the rise and fall of empires, world wars, depressions, hyperinflation, and technological revolutions. While trendy investments come and go, these foundational assets remain relevant because they address fundamental human needs and scarcity principles that never change. What separates those who build lasting wealth from those who don't isn't access to insider information or extraordinary financial resources. It's perspective and patience. The wealthiest families think in decades and generations rather than quarters and fiscal years. They understand that sustainable wealth isn't built through speculation or timing the market, but through the steady accumulation of assets that generate value regardless of economic conditions. The strategies we've covered aren't just for the already wealthy. The beauty of this approach is that it's accessible to anyone willing to think differently about money and time. Whether you're starting with $100 or $100,000, the principles remain the same. Begin early, be consistent, diversify strategically, adjust methodically as life evolves, and maintain a long-term perspective even when short-term thinking dominates the financial conversation around you. Perhaps the most powerful realization is that building lasting wealth isn't primarily about sophisticated investment techniques. It's about developing the emotional discipline to stick with proven strategies when others are chasing quick returns. It's about having the courage to think independently when financial media promotes fear or irrational exuberance. It's about understanding that the most valuable financial skills aren't predicting market movements, but controlling your own behavior. If you found value in these insights, please help others discover this information by liking this video and sharing it with friends and family members who might be struggling with financial uncertainty or looking to build more sustainable wealth. Subscribe to our channel and hit the notification bell to join our community of long-term wealth builders who focus on time-tested strategies rather than financial fads. Leave a comment sharing which of these enduring assets you're most focused on acquiring next, or what financial legacy you hope to create. Your perspective not only helps us create more relevant content but also inspires others on similar journeys. Remember, the greatest wealth transfer in history is currently underway, and those who understand these principles will not merely preserve wealth but build dynasties that last for generations. The choice to start building your financial legacy isn't just about your future. It's about the opportunities and security you create for those who come after you. Thank you for investing your time with us today.